Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Global Lecture. It's great to see you here, both here in the room and online. Thank you for making the time to be here. Today's topic, the EU AI Act in Practice, Cross-Border Perspectives on AI Governance. A fantastic topical theme. My name is Chris Luebkeman, and I have the privilege and the pleasure of leading the Strategic Foresight Hub here at ETH Zurich. Our mission is to try to make sure that ETH remains one of the top 10 universities in the world. And we take that quite seriously, which is why we love hosting these kinds of conversations. And most importantly, I am your host for the next hour. The Global Lecture Series brings the world's leading minds to ETH Zurich to explore ideas that shape our collective future. Through thought-provoking dialogue and diverse perspectives, we hope to foster deeper understanding, accelerate innovation, and broaden our collective impact. Our topic today truly has far-reaching implications. Consider for a moment that it was only 3 years ago, almost to the day, November 30th actually, that ChatGPT was introduced to the public in an unstable version. It was only 2 years ago that it really became a thing, more or less, in public awareness. Now, it's quite difficult for me to imagine modern life without access to the power, the potential, and the peril of the large language model. The pace of integration, acceptance, and development of AI is frankly mind-bending. And this brings me to our conversation today and why we're here. I can't think of two individuals who are more well-placed to help us look at what AI governance should look like in our rapidly evolving landscape. What is, could, or should the role of academic institutions be in this context? What are some of the best practices that we can be referring to on how we move forward and think about this? For the next hour, we will explore how ethical, legal, and institutional perspectives converge in the governance of AI across Europe, and what this means for the future of responsible AI. Now, we are going to have a conversation up here for about 20 minutes to half an hour, and then we'd like to ask you if you have any questions. In order for the questions to come up to me, we have little cards, which our colleagues here have, you see, and we also have pens. In case here at the university you just don't happen to have a pen, because all you do is this, but we do have pens. And so please write in your very best handwriting. I mean that seriously, your very best handwriting, your questions so that I can incorporate it into our conversation. So, are we ready? Thank you. Are we ready? Yes. That's much better. Thank you very much. So first off, I would like to welcome our very special guest, Liisa-Ly Pakosta, to join me. Please come on up here. Let's give her a hand here. Come on. Thank you. Now, first off, Liisa, we're very honored for you to be here, and Audi Max.
Thank you.
You are the Estonian's Minister of Justice and Digital Affairs. What does everyone in the room need to know about you that's relevant for today's conversation?
That there are no just technical questions. Most of the technical questions are actually legal questions.
Are you a lawyer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, I just thought about that. But, okay, and so you're...
But I have also a technical background.
Yeah.
I actually got an innovation award last century from Swedish King.
Yeah,
for designing the capital of Estonia e-services.
Very cool. Yeah, congratulations. I didn't know that. That's very, very good. Somehow I missed that, but it was great. Well, we're going to talk to you.
It's a fun fact. Yeah.
It's a fun fact. That's a great fun fact. I love that. And did the king give you like a knighthood and all that kind of stuff?
Not really, actually.
Okay, but it was all right. Yeah. But it was worth it. So thank you. It's wonderful to have you with us. If you mind having a seat for a moment. And I love your shoes. Those are pretty cool. Our counterpart from ETH Zurich today is Effy Vayena. Effy, come on up, please.
Yes.
So, Effy, you are a full professor here at ETH Zurich. What does everyone in the room need to know about you that's relevant for today's conversation?
That the technical questions are not only technical, but also ethical.
Oh, I can see already where this is going to go.
And
so you're an ethicist in that case. Okay.
Exactly, yeah. So I've been working on trying to, for the last decade almost, on looking at how these technologies, the new technologies we're having and we're developing in institutions like this can actually serve us best.
Yeah, that's great.
And with that, we asked ethical questions and then, of course, the regulatory questions.
Well, we're going to talk a lot more about that, but I think also you did a lot with biomedical. This was a big focus for you. Is that correct?
Me, yes, absolutely. That's how I started. I started looking at the emergence of technologies in medicine and biomedicine.
Yep.
Very quickly, that became data.
Yep.
And after data came all the analytics, AI, and the rest.
And have you ever met the King of Sweden?
No, I was going to say, absolutely
Okay.
not.
Well, we'll work on that. So, Effy, you mind having a seat and we'll get started. So, thank you very much. That's great. So, as you can see, we have an amazingly fantastic conversation ahead of us. Now, Liisa, most of us who've engaged in the digital transformation in our careers have looked at Estonia with approaches actually awe. In many ways, you as a nation have been a digital leader from the get-go for many, many years. Tell us a little bit about that journey, why you are the Vorreiter in German in this sort of digital transformation.
The starting point was a little bit opposite that you are used here in Switzerland. So after Russian occupation, when Estonia regained its independence, we didn't have any money at all. So we had to find ways to build up a state which is efficient, and then the internet was just around there. So it was quite logical that, okay, we take the digital path. The second reason for that was that, as you might know, Russia is a highly corrupted country. We wanted to be again part of normal Europe. So to be anti-corrupt meant that we have to be very transparent. As you might know, technological solutions enable you to see every transaction second-wise and who did it, etc. So this was also one of the grounding principles that we have to build a state which is fully transparent from the governance side. And then again, the digital path was it. And we had quite a high level of education, so we had people to do it.
And so when excuse my ignorance, but when did you gain independence? In what year?
1991 again.
Okay.
After then the Russian occupation, which Switzerland never acknowledged. Thank you so much for that. Switzerland is in the heart of every Estonian.
Well, we appreciate that very much. And so in 1991, what were some of the first steps which you took on the digital transformation? Because we talk a lot about digitization, digital transformation, and other things which transform. What were some of the steps you took?
Actually, the very first thing was to decide what would be the scope. So, of course, if you think back to these times, and especially when the country is extremely poor, then we had to think what would be the solution so that the digital state is accessible to everybody. Very many people didn't have any computers or mobile phones these times. So we started with two investments. First, it was every school who got high-speed internet, computers, so that you from 7 years old already will be living and learning in a digital environment, so that we build up from the bottom. And the second decision was that every public library, we have public libraries in all the villages, every small village has a public library. All the public libraries got computers free internet access, and we didn't train any more librarians, but we trained information specialists, so that there is at least a school and a library where you have all the equipment and you have people who are trained to help other people, so that you have the network for people, and then only come the technological solutions.
So the network for people and the dependence on people is quite interesting. You know, we talk a lot about digital natives. Here we're talking about digital citizens, right? And how quickly was it accepted, this digital transformation?
We tried a little bit with free will.
That concept. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But then we understood that this has some consequences. And we actually saw that some of the banks in Europe are using digital ID, so that people are used to use internet and computers to send all their money to somebody. So when people are ready to do it with the banks and with their own money, why not with the public services? So we actually copied the banking system to the e-governance system. And we said that, sorry, guys, if you do it with your money, why not with the public services? And we actually made it obligatory, so that every person has an ID number and has a digital access to the services. So this is compulsory. Sorry, but it worked out extremely well, because at the same time we had already built extremely secure X-Road system. X-Road is a system that is even more secure than the banks usually have, or at least had these times. And the extremely secure X-Road architecture is the architecture that connects different public authorities with their data. So the once-only principle was possible to start with from the very beginning, because of the extremely secure architecture that has never been hacked. So our very tragic but true selling argument is that Ukraine is, for example, one of the countries who also uses the same X-Road system, and it has never been hacked, even during this full-scale aggression from Russian side.
That's great. Thank you. I got one more question, and Effy, I'm going to ask you to maybe comment on some of these. Trust. I mean, we trust the banking system. You said you were looking for a system which worked and people trusted. When we're thinking, what's the role of trust in this digital landscape today? Has it changed, gotten growth, have it increased? How's it?
It has only grown.
Yeah.
So trust is the absolutely core thing, because people own their data. It's people who own their data. They give their data to government in order to get better services. But if people would say that, no, you can't use my data, then we can't. So it is built only on trust. We have full-scale architecture around that to build the trust. And it is now especially interesting how to proceed with this during the AI era, that we will probably talk more about. But for example, people in Estonia can check from a mobile app or from computer which person from which authority, or it can sometimes be also a private company, has looked at their data on what microsecond it has happened. And then when you have any hesitations, you can make a requirement, why was this happening? So people have full control of their own data, and they have full control who has looked at their data. And this now is much more secure. If you have paper files at the hospital, you never know who looked these. But if you have digital data at the hospital, you see exactly which doctor at which moment took a look on your data. And there has been occasions where there has been a doctor who has looked to a patient's data without having a legal ground. And actually this doctor has being punished after that. So it's extremely strict from this wise.
That's really truly fascinating. I hadn't heard of that. And then you also know if the doctor didn't look. Right?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
So this is another part. So that's also good to know, So yeah. So Effy, you were sort of nodding at quite a few of her points. What's your comment on this journey that she described?
Actually, I was very pleased to meet Lisa, because very often in conversations, but also in teaching our students, we would always bring up Estonia as an example, particularly in conversations where we're thinking about health data and how we, in so many countries in Europe, we do not have this sort of access, we don't have these sorts of systems. So we're always saying, well, Estonia somehow is doing it. How can we do it? Where's the issue? So I think it's a terrific example of how a system can be built. Mm-hmm. Now, the difficulty that we were facing in other European countries, also in Switzerland, it wasn't about the technical part. We could all build a technical system. The problem we have been having is how to, overcome regulatory questions that maybe hinder such systems. And the second is how we engage our citizens to become part of such systems, so they don't react as if somebody is going to be the big brother and the state is going to control them and all their actions. So these two have been very difficult challenges in, I think, most of European countries. And I don't think we have adequately resolved them. Yeah. Now, one advantage I think that Estonia had was that you were starting from scratch. So you had this clean start. All of us in many other countries were just coming along to this digital journey with, our luggage and our histories and our systems. So this is something that we cannot copy, the clean start. But I think there are other, for example, what you mentioned, the fact that citizens have, that there is full transparency in the system, that you can anytime look at what's going on with your data. I think these are elements that make citizens trust a system in which their data are available for more purposes. Now, what do we know from many surveys and in smaller kind of scale, not in a sort of national type of scale, is that typically citizens are okay with access to their data as long as the security issues are taken care of, and as long as there is a concrete benefit to not only to individually them, but the communities of people. And we see this very often in studies about health data. People don't object to the uses of their data, but they want to see that they share in the benefit that will be created out of these uses. For example, if it's clear and can be demonstrated that people will have better services, if it's clear that they will have better access to healthcare or cost containment or something, I think citizens will come along. I think the worry of the citizens is that somebody has access, somebody benefits, and we're still not having those benefits that we would like to have. So this is, I think, a fundamental aspect for people being engaged and willing, but also maintaining or actually building the trust, because the trust is that you, the state, are going to do certain things. Okay, we're game, but we would have to be able to see the benefits. Mm-hmm. And I think that's fundamental.
So Lisa, how you were nodding at that and sort of saying, do you feel like your citizens understand the benefit of the system now? It's been now in around for 20, 30 years almost?
It is very hard to understand when you live in Estonia that you actually save at least 7 days a year because of the digital systems are not so bureaucratic. They are very easy. They are quite often proactive. You just have to fill in that. For example, to fill in the tax report takes less than a minute, because you just have to accept. Okay? if you have, or to start a company again, like less than a minute. So you're used to it. So people usually understand that it is quite good when they live a little bit somewhere outside of Estonia, that yes, there is a difference. But as you very rightly said, now Estonian people are very eagerly waiting, where are the new AI services? We have around 200 services we use at the public sector, which are based on AI, which use AI, but these are more or less related to the public data, or at least data that is not sensitive, because we haven't solved yet the trust issues. And this is super interesting to find collaborations with that, to build for the whole world possibilities, at least in education or public services. What are the new possibilities that people really gain good things out of?
So let's just slip now into the AI part. And you mentioned we have trust is where we sort of stopped. Now we come to the AI, and how do we trust AI? Effy, how do we trust it?
Right. So how do we trust AI? I belong to those people who think that we typically trust other people and we just rely on machines and technology. So I make a distinction between trust and reliability, but I'll leave it for now. And I'll use the trust more of a, let's say, can we use them? Do we feel comfortable using them? Do we feel safe using them? That's, I think, maybe another type of framing. So we want, I think, as citizens and as just people in general, not to know that we're not going to be harmed. That's a very, very basic, very kind of fundamental thing. We don't want technologies that harm us. We want to get what we ask for. We want reliability. So if we want AI to do X, Y, Z, AI should be delivering on the X, Y, Z. And I think other things that build trust to AI is things like accountability and transparency. Do we know that these systems actually somebody's accountable for? We've built our societies on accountability. Our legal systems also are built on somebody's responsible for something, and therefore we create those roles, we take care, we build the system around that. So do we have these accountability mechanisms in these developments and deployments of products that makes us feel, okay, there is a series of the process of accountability behind all this that comes here. So I think safety is number one. Again, always depending on what kind of technology we're talking about, because AI is, of course, so broad that the safety threshold varies as a criterion, but still I think is there. The reliability and the accuracy, the performance of the product, and am I getting what I should be getting or something completely wild and wrong? And is there accountability behind this entire system? So I feel, there is somewhere some control. And I think in general as well, what we've seen with other technologies, citizens want to know that some of these technologies we're using, especially when they're sensitive, take, for example, health as an area, we want to know that there are systems, public systems that check things, that there are standards, there are organizations that have checked the safety or the efficacy. We do this with pharmaceuticals. So I think what will make us more comfortable and trust those systems is if those conditions are met. Now you could turn around and say, really, everybody's using ChatGPT or whatever technology, and nobody has checked all these criteria. But I think that to me means it was a new thing that came out. It was very accessible. Everybody was on it. It doesn't, even if people use something, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have deep trust on the something. And when it comes to sensitive areas, I think people are able to differentiate and say, okay, I can use ChatGPT to write a text, but am I going to use ChatGPT for something that is, or not ChatGPT, I mean AI of sorts, for things that are more important, and their consequences are more significant than did I write a text to you.
So that sort of comes to the use cases and this accountability. How do you see this, Liisa? This accountability, I mean, legal, lawyer, justice, Accountability.
It's a broader question, actually. We had a state AI strategy that we accepted last spring. The strategy was more or less that we are going on with adapting the possibilities that are already out there, and that we will be the public sector in the world that uses the most of the AI. But we had to redo this policy, because we found out that if we rely only on huge companies, there are backdoors that were not visible from the very beginning. And for example, we have even the e-voting system. So for the parliament elections, for local elections, this is an all encrypted process without any backdoors possible. So, for example, we are arguing still with the EU, who wants to open some backdoors for police in order to prevent the very bad things at the internet. But we are opposing it because we couldn't have our e-voting system when there are any backdoors open. We definitely have redefined the understanding of sovereign AI. So the basic is that we should, as a government, control absolutely every aspect in order to protect the data. We should know all the details about the data, how they are moving, how they are used. This has been the grounding principle for e-governance, and there is no possibility to go on with the AI, especially with the sensitive data, if we do not have absolutely full control about the process, and especially in the way that it wouldn't be a politician from a third country, from somewhere outside of Europe, to say that, let's open this door or that door. So this is actually the broader concept that we are following now. And of course, there is a lot of other issues around that. Technology, especially AI, gives us so many possibilities. Now we are actually writing down the things that we are not going to do with AI. Let me give one example. We are using AI-based cameras in the forests. In order, these cameras check the animals and birds who pass, and they make a report what is the actual situation. Half of the territory of Estonia is covered with forests. People go to the forests quite often. They do all kinds of things in the forest. So they might happen to be in the camera at the time. So we are not going to use this material to see maybe this is something not morally acceptable what you are doing in the forest. So these things is very important that we also declare from the other side what we are not going to do. It would be very easy for any government to say, we might write, you maybe did something wrong here. Nobody is perfect. So we are not going to punish anybody more because it is just technically possible to find out these small misbehaviors people are doing. For example, this is just one of the things.
I think that's a really interesting example of navigating this very sharp line between citizen trust and, you mentioned before, technical capability, and your consciousness of the importance of maintaining this trust by saying what we're going to do and not do. And I think that's really quite fascinating, especially the traceability.
Yeah, we accept that people are not perfect.
Yeah. But you mentioned something else. I want to, Effy, use this about you want to be able to make sure that all the data is. We mentioned before, we can see who's seen my file, and that's so critical to see who has seen the data. And this is one of the challenges with the LLMs. You can't necessarily see into the fog. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a tricky question, and to find the solution how to organize it further on. So, of course, when you see, you will see that the machine, let's say like an LLM has looked at your data. What next? We have to solve this what next issue. So yes, and at the same time, we are very much interested in innovation to go on, because we rarely see the possibilities that are out there for the citizens using AI possibilities. We use a lot of algorithms, and we have a lot of algorithm-based decision-making, which saves enormously time for all the parties, and everybody is happy. Although there are some legal issues. For example, we had Supreme Court decision. So to cut the forest, to cut the trees at the forest, you need a permission from the state. It is an algorithm-based decision, because it is like 20 databases that it checks. And then the Supreme Court got an appeal from nature protection organizations that even if the decision is fully right, we still want to protest. And the Supreme Court decided, yeah, okay, you have the technical possibility there that you can make this decision with seconds, but let's make it in this way that there will be 7 days in between, so that people who want to protest will have this possibility as well. Okay, we can do this. Yeah, so there is a lot of things around, not only that build trust to the machine learning-based, algorithm-based, LLM-based, whatever technologically innovative way-based decision-making.
That's great. Effy, do you have any comment on that before I go to the AI EU Act?
No, I'm keen to go to the AI EU Act.
Are you ready to go to the AI EU Act? Because there's just something relevant to this. And so what is the AI EU Act? An Act is not an acronym for something. It's actually an act.
It's an act.
Yes.
Actually, it is an act by the EU, and it's a piece of law, actually, which was in the works for many years. It took a while to make it. And I think the original idea was that we are going in Europe to have a way to deal with AI technology that meets certain European, it's infused by certain European values, protects our citizens, and allows, at least in theory, the further development of this technology. Maybe a little bit of history to the EU AI Act. Before the conversations about the Act, there have been many conversations about the ethics of AI. What are the main principles that should dictate or guide our work with AI, our development, and then the deployment, of course. That was a very vibrant conversation, scholarly and non-scholarly. Many governments developed frameworks, and many organizations went down the list of what are the basic principles, what are the ethical principles, etc. And it was actually quite an interesting exercise by many organizations and governments in Europe. And then what happened, and it was not only the public sector at that time who was very active, the private sector as well was very active in trying to say, what is ethical AI? How can we do it in a way that serves us best? But then it became clearly very obvious that this is great, it's a great exercise, we can articulate the ethics, we can come up with great ideas and frameworks, but we need something with more teeth. We need something that can actually make companies, the public sector, whoever does this stuff with AI, to actually do it the right way. And that led to a form of translation, essentially, of those, or at least some of those ethical principles into the regulatory act. Now, that is much more easily said than done, and it took a long time for the European regulators to decide on the act. As many of you perhaps are interested in this, are following, have probably recalled that there were problems with the definition of AI. There were problems with, there was a lot of difficulty in agreeing on many things. And then once we were almost there, the LLMs came about, and they were not even covered by that act, which is very indicative, actually emblematic of the fact that when you're trying to regulate a technology, that it is very fast moving, you are behind just at the get.
By definition.
By definition.
Yeah.
You couldn't, I mean, even now we're having a bunch of problems, but I think the history was we had some idea of what ethical AI should look like. We tried to move into regulate this so citizens are safe, technology can improve. The idea was great. Execution, I think, has been very difficult. And I think up to this date, it's very difficult because right this week or the last couple of weeks, the EU is still talking now about the simplification package, which is a ways to simplify the regulation that they just adopted. Mm-hmm. And so we're having already serious exercises to make it simpler. That tells me that it was very complex. And make it simpler for countries and companies and the world and all those affected by this technology to follow the law. And that's a brand new law. It's not that we have it for a while, and it needs a simplification. So that's in short, the history.
So it's brand new, but still needs simplification. It's not out there yet, or is it out there now?
It is out. It is out there. Some provisions are into effect. More provisions are coming in 2026. But part of the simplification, for example, package is that the EU will give more grace period. So it extends essentially the deadlines. So for people to come up with the requirements that the EU puts to them, the Act puts to them. And so, because it was obvious that they cannot meet those requirements. So it's a gradual enforcement of the law, but some things are on already. But we'll see what happens by 2027.
Before I have Lisa comment on that, I want to ask, you also have a chance to ask questions? As Victoria gave me one of these sheets, you can use, does anyone have a question they'd like to write down and send up to me? I can talk to them for like 4 hours. It's no problem. I'd love to get your questions in there too. So leave your hands up and they'll pass cards over to you. And that's great. She's coming down to give you the cards and she'll pass them over. And it says here, remind people to write down their questions. You see, I can... That's great. Okay.
Maybe, Chris, one thing quickly, as people are writing questions, is that just to point out that Switzerland is not, of course, is not in that sense subject to the EU AI Act, as we're not adopting it as such, given our status. But we took a different path here in Switzerland, and we did not go for the horizontal regulation like the AI Act, but rather a sort of minimal layer of horizontal regulation and then more sectorial approaches. That's the Swiss, let's say, regulatory movement in response, not only in response to the AI Act, but also in general as a move.
So, Lisa, let's hear your story on the EU AI Act and how you feel about it.
It was a brilliant summary, and we actually even wrote, Estonian Parliament even sent a letter to European Commission, which does not happen so often, which pointed out the main problems. It is not so clear, and we also were looking for more sectoral rules, not one general. And also we were a little bit not happy with in balance between innovation and regulation. So having said that, I have to underline that we have been building digital state based on GDPR. So you need rules, you need regulations to build complex systems because you need trust, and you need so that also the companies understand what are the basic rules. Our bad thing has been, or the bad experience has been, that with the GDPR also, there has been very many European court decisions that have changed the understanding of how the GDPR should be implemented. So the data protection rules already have shown us that even if you have a European Union regulation, there will be court decisions afterwards that give totally different path for how to understand these regulations. And now with the AI Act includes areas, 8 areas that are prohibited, and then high-risk areas. And even with these prohibited things, it is name only. It is totally unclear how to implement it. So, for example, social scoring is not allowed. You all have been part of social scoring because you all have got marks, at least at the university, if not at schools. Yeah, then the AI Act says that these types of social scorings are allowed, which are allowed by the law of the member state. Yeah. So
it's not allowed, but it is allowed.
Yeah, it is.
It could be allowed.
Yeah, but it could be allowed in Latvia, but not in Estonia. What would we do then? So it is extremely complicated, and we see problems with innovation because you need quite a lot of money to innovate new products with AI, and you don't want to invest when it is such a broad scope of unclarity.
And the other thing is, this regulatory burden is usually felt more by SMEs, by small and medium-sized enterprises, because the big companies with so many lawyers, maybe they have the capacity to absorb some of that. They have experience, but how do how do startups or smaller companies deal with this type of regulatory burden? I think, in theory, again, the EU says, we want to reduce the burden for SMEs, but to what extent this regulation has taken seriously that release of burden? I mean, it seems very difficult to me, but I don't know what your
Absolutely. I think you have read our Parliament declaration to the European Commission, because SMEs were exactly one of the topics that we pointed out.
Yeah.
And now because it is already, the act is there. So what we are now designing in Estonia is a special law to guarantee the companies who invest into new products with AI, a state guarantee that it complies. So if there will be discussions or disputes afterwards, then it would be not for the company a burden, but for the state. Okay. So we already have the sandbox for compliance of the AI Act. And because we have such a broad possibilities with already existing digital infrastructure, it is very easy to test. So we have AI at schools, we have AI at public sector, and we have full infrastructure behind that. So the AI Act offers a possibility for real-life similar situations. So we actually can do it in the way that you get a state guarantee that you can go on with the product. This is the way that we are interested in to enhance the innovation, because we really are interested in the innovation in this field, because we really see that it offers so many positive solutions for people. But again, having said that, what we struggle with is, and what you also mentioned beforehand, is how do we check the safety? Mm-hmm. If there would be an Estonian citizen who would be able to check the safety of AI, the public sector in Estonia wouldn't be able to pay the salary which this person would be fully entitled to get. So we are also looking for a more broader understanding to share this task with somebody. It is meaningless to build separate authorities to just check it.
Thank you, both of you, for that. I'm wondering if you shouldn't just rewrite the EU AI Act based on your experience.
We would love
with
to.
It.
I think it is quite hard to get other member states to vote in the same way. Yeah, politically, it is very good to stand up and say, I will bring you the safe and ethical AI, and we just forbid all the bad possibilities. It is very easy for a politician to say this.
Yeah.
But how should we implement it?
Yeah.
Yes.
that gets to the...
We know that. We know in Estonia the actual issues, yeah.
I was sort of jesting, but it's kind of serious because you have had 30 years of experience in how to do this. A couple of questions came in around your camera in the woods. And that seemed to touch a nerve, or could relate to it.
People
Many
thought
of
the
us,
forest
yes. So,
here as well.
but the question was, well, what if the camera sees a crime? And a crime, then what?
Very good question. It means basically that somebody should tell the LLM what is a crime. And luckily, it is not so bad question to tell it, because legal systems in all the countries are fully human-made systems. So there is nothing that comes from nature or nothing that comes from whatever things, but it is all the legal laws are written down in words and they make a system. So this is why actually the legal area in the world has been one of the areas using the most of the AI. So, for example, also in Estonia, the law firms do not have junior lawyers anymore. They use AI because law is a complex but still a closed system. So you can put this in. Of course, there will be interesting cases when it is misunderstood by the machine. For example, killing a human being. Was this an animal? Was this a human being? What are the relations between that? If the face was not visible, was this just a body? So I can see very many problems around that. But basically, it is possible to give it. But having said that, again, there is a lot of, in all the laws, there is a list of things that are allowed in one place, but not allowed in the other place. For example, breach of public order is a good example. That something that you do in the Central Park here is not allowed, but you can freely do it in the forest. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Not an easy.
Very good question. But we are optimistic about that. The issue is more or less, actually we should wait for a system that deletes all the data and pictures the very next moment the analytics is done. So that you don't preserve it.
Use it, yeah. You cannot use it for a prosecution, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, that's...
So I was just going to ask you, as an ethicist, how do you see this? Yeah.
So I think, if you delete the data, you cannot go back, and you only get the flag, the sort of warning of the system that something is happening, then you cannot use it. It's obviously then flagging it might not help you very much. I didn't mention rape or just wonderful sex. Yeah, exactly. It depends how it's been put into the system. But what I think one issue that we're always worried about that form of surveillance is that people don't feel free to live their lives. Now, most people who feel free, they will live a normal life without crimes, without committing crimes. But there is this fraction that will always commit a crime, right? We do not, in general, sacrifice the freedom of the rest for the fraction of people that will do the bad behavior or commit the crime. So I think what we need to be careful with in these systems is that the rest of those people who are not intending to commit crimes feel that they live a free life and they can go to the forest and they can have fun without thinking, no, I'm not gonna live the way I want by not harming anybody or doing the right thing anyway, just because there's something that's watching me. I think that form of surveillance is something we got to be very careful with.
Yeah, because there's a couple other questions and nuances on this around extending that to other cameras in the cities, which we know many...
But usually also, you see in many places that you get a warning that says, here, surveillance cameras are operating. So there are places that indicate that, and the idea is always that you are being surveilled or you don't, right? I mean, the principle would be that I know that I'm going to be on that somebody's watching me, versus if there is no warning, and not that it happens, but if there is no indication, then I should feel that I'm not. But this has been, of course, very mixed.
Yeah, it is extremely mixed. For example, there is already on the market, I think it was Amazon, sorry if I mix it up, a system that helps you to know whether your dog has left your yard and in which area it walks around. So it means that people in the neighborhood connect their cameras. So
to watch your dog?
To watch your dog. But maybe somebody is more interested in with whom my husband came home last evening. And maybe it was not a dog. So... So it is...
or maybe it was. I mean...
maybe it was,
it could have been. You never know.
Maybe some other dog.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is not funny, actually.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I have to say, yeah. So it is a lot of... and again, this is why what I said in the beginning, that the grounding principle is that although we have so many technological possibilities out there, we absolutely need a regulation and law that enables innovation from one side, but ensures that you can be an unperfect person, free, unperfect, not perfect person at the same time. And these are so interesting and complex issues that we definitely in Estonia are interested in any cooperation. So if any of the students is interested in to do any research, or if you have any startups or whatever, and you're looking for a testing ground, so you're very warmly welcome to Estonia to do all this. Yeah,
I think that was the unvarnished pitch, we would say, right? I think and it's very open. I have just noticed that we actually have 4 minutes left.
Oh.
And I have some really great questions. What I'd like to do is I'm going to read the questions, because afterwards we have lunch outside in the foyer, and I believe some time to be able to mingle and talk about some of these questions later. So what builds trust faster, strong regulation or strong transparency?
Transparency.
All right, there you go. Got the answer. That was a quick one. You've managed the security of your e-services, especially with respect to backdoor access. How do you manage this with the architecture and security of the internet?
You have to have separate architecture for that. For example, this X-Road is separated from the internet.
So no relationship. There you go. Good. Okay.
Architecture
This
question.
is great. I like this. I like these short answers. We have to do this. Will Estonia navigate differences? How will Estonia navigate differences, regulatory, technical norms, etc., with the EU if the EU continues to be less wholesome and stringent with AI regulations? Like they're going to be
with braveness.
With braveness. Very good. Courage. I love that. This is great. All right. It's interesting that Effy mentions pharmaceuticals. I often hear narrative arguments about overregulation. You wrote very small. That's a bit of a cheat here, I have to say, right? So I often hear normative arguments about overregulation in Europe, which might cause Europe to fall behind Silicon Valley or Beijing. We don't complain about pharmaceutical regulations. How do we make sense of this discrepancy? Because I assume most people would not boast about no pharma regulations in America or China.
Longer history in the pharma regulation than we have in the AI regulation. We got used to safety. We are not sure what we're after in the AI space. And that's why we have this, I think, different.
And with the AI specifically, I very much believe that we can actually get forward very quickly because we have academia, public sector, and entrepreneurs doing work together. This is something very specific that has helped Europe throughout the centuries and should help us now as well.
What is the motivation? We got 3 minutes. What is the motivation to be the first mover in AI regulation, especially considering that the EU isn't a leading force in the development of the technology in comparison with the US and China? Debatable. What chance do regulators have to anticipate effects of regulation with so many unknown unknowns?
Well, they should have done it actually already. There are methods. You're one of those foresight people. There are ways with which you can anticipate effects, but I'm not sure they were used by Europe. Maybe you have a different opinion on that. So it is possible to anticipate. And I think one other element which we are not seeing is agility. Once you see something, you can move fast. We can't wait any longer. And again, there we have some work to do. Maybe Estonia is agile, but Europe as a whole is more bureaucratic than agile.
Democracy has some mistakes, but it is still the best way of living we know.
Yeah.
I think we'll all agree with you on that statement. And the final one, do we need an UN convention on AI?
We're having already statements and consensus approaches from the UN. The question, in my opinion, will be, what do we do with it? How do we implement it?
The European Council version is better for us, for example, than the EU one.
That's great. And you have to be able to enforce it. That's the other part. It doesn't matter if you have law which you enforce. I'd like to thank our amazing panelists for their clarity, depth, and inspiration. It has been a joy, and I've learned a lot. So thank you. Thank you. So, there you go. We seriously hope that today's dialogue sparks new ideas and leads to some more fruitful collaborations amongst you and amongst us. You heard Estonia is open for business. And Switzerland is too, by the way,
Always.
just saying, you know. Today's discussion reminds us that the future of AI in Europe will not be defined by rules alone, but how we choose to apply them, the responsibility, trust, and commitment to human values, which we all hold dear in our hearts. At ETH Zurich, researchers are turning these principles into practice by exploring how technology, this is my pitch, I get a pitch time too, how technology can be both innovative and ethical, advancing AI that serves people and strengthens society. By supporting ETH's work in this field through the ETH Foundation, you can help drive the research and dialogue that will shape Europe's AI future. Together, we can ensure that innovation and integrity go hand in hand. We can build AI that we can trust. And then finally, the next and final global lecture we'll be hosting this year will be on Wednesday, the 17th of December, when we'll have the pleasure of having digital shaper and ETH alumna Petra Eman in conversation with our Vice Rector for Continuing Education, Stefano Bozzoni. You can see on the slide. We hope you will be able to join us on that day. And finally, another big thank you to both of you for being here and for your wisdom and your efforts, both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And a very big thank you to you for choosing to be here on this Thursday morning from 11 to 12. And you're all invited to join outside in the foyer for lunch after this. And before we do that, or you all can leave, but we'd like to have the Estonian students come down who were invited to have a picture with the minister. And again, thank you so very, very much. Yeah.